Servus and hello, Matthias Eichler here, and this is another fantastic episode of Singletrack. Only 4 weeks until Beast of Big Creek. Hope you're finding your mountain legs. Mount Eleanor is calling your name. Come out to Hoodsport and race with us this iconic mountain 14-miler with over 5,000 feet of vert. Yes, I promise it will hurt, but it will be so worth it. Sign up at rockcandyrunning.com and join us on August 5th above Lake Cushman on the Olympic Peninsula. All right, the World Championship in Innsbruck are already a few weeks back, but shortly after I sat down with Marcel Höche, who ran for Team Germany. We chat about the experience of wearing the national team jersey. We chat about the differences between a race of this caliber in makeup versus UTMB, and of course, his exciting racing plans for the remainder of the year.
I am sitting in a hotel in Leutasch, which is very, very, very close to where I live now, which is in Innsbruck. I moved since we last talked.
Yep.
And it's very close to Innsbruck, but now the whole Terex team is here, or not the whole team, but some of us. So yeah, I said I'll go to that hotel just to hang out with my team a little bit more.
Nice. So they're on Trainingslager and you just showed up because you live close by?
Well, I train as well, but it's not really like a classical Trainingslager. It's more like a competition lager.
Okay.
Zugspitz Ultra is this weekend. The first competition already was today, the Golden Trails one. And that's where some of us raced today, and some more will race tonight at the 85K.
Okay. But you are not racing because you did World Championships.
Absolutely, yes.
So you're kind of your Adidas Terex team, you're kind of a little bit in a unique position when it comes to sponsored teams, right? That doesn't really exist in trail running outside of your team. Am I reading this right?
I think you are absolutely reading this right, yeah. The amount of times we get to spend together as a huge team coming from all over the world, the way that we feel connected to each other, the way we get treated here with personal physios, and since this year even a sports psychologist, and whatever support system we need, being supported by, at on a day job, there are marketing managers. At night, they will be crewing, literally crewing this night when they're starting in 3 hours to run through the night. It's 8 o'clock here in the evening. So they will be crewing all night long. And then on Monday, they'll be back at the office and, trying to activate and sorting through the photos that the photographers took and tell our story of the race that we will hopefully have, the good one.
So I would love to dive into this a little bit. So Adidas sponsors and supports this. And in that sense, you're unique in the industry, but you're still very much grassroots compared to any other professional sports, meaning what you're just hinting at, that you've got folks crewing you, and then on Monday morning they sit back in the office like they're not official pit crew folks yet, right?
No, they are not. But of course they've done that so many times. They are, well-organized people. They know the sports. They know everything. Some of them are actually former professional athletes or semi-professional athletes themselves. So they know what's going on in our heads. They know what we need at what time. So yeah, I hate to say that. And luckily, my mom and my dad, they don't speak English very well, so they won't understand what I'm about to say, which is that they are crewing me even better than my parents. My parents do a great job. Yeah. But sometimes for them, it's really hard to get into my head and to know what's going on, and then to read what might I need at certain times.
It is difficult, right? I mean, I think the best crew are people who actually run And it probably starts even without the practicalities of like, hey, I've got your water bottles already filled. It already starts in just a facial expression, right? Somebody who doesn't run might come see you come to an aid station in complete pain, and the look on their face is so much empathy and like, oh, I need to take care of you, and like, no, I don't want to be taken care of. I want to kick in the ass and my shit put back together and just send me back out onto the trail. I don't need hugs right now.
and even, you know, and even if my mom were a professional runner, like, just by what you just said, you know, like your mom is probably I mean, my mom loves me very much, you know, and she might actually be too empathetic towards me to be a good, like, you know, crew person.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm referring to. My first time, my family crewed me and my kids were really little. And so my wife obviously had to take more of my kids than our kids, than myself. But I came to the aid station, and me too then, right? My mindset shifted because all of a sudden I was like, oh, how are you? Talking to the kids and stuff, right? And so you're not in a racing mode anymore, which is kind of funny. Well, let's talk a little bit more about how it is being in a team like this. I mean, you've been connected to Adidas for a really long time, but have you ever been outside of this I mean, you just talked about having your parents' career, but what do you feel like are the main differences being part of a team versus racing on your levels, trying to do this alone?
Yeah, I mean, like, even if you have like the financial like support from, I don't know, coming from somewhere else, and you can afford your own physio, you can afford your own psychologist, you can afford whatever nutrition you need, and you do have someone that is willing to crew you through the whole night. Just having like-minded people here for a couple of days, and we are all here doing and loving the same thing. Most of the times loving it, sometimes not so much, because we're going through, all of us, everyone is going through valleys as well, right? And, you know, having someone here that might have gone through the same valley once or even more times is absolutely super highly valuable and cannot be underestimated. And I mean, it's not like a team that comes together for the first or second time and everyone is just trying to do his or her best and then goes home. You know, we are a group of friends. Many of us have been with the brand or in the team for 3, 4, 5 years, just like me. And yeah, I mean, we are super close friends, right? One of my best friends are also part of the team. My roommate Sven Koch actually is also part of the Terex team. And yeah, you know how it is, like spending much time with people so close to you, so close to the same thing that you love, sharing the same passion, helping you struggle to the good times, celebrating with you in the good times. That's what in the end makes you like a band of brothers and sisters, right? And it's like the best thing I could imagine right now.
Yeah. And it's probably super valuable for you because you're training on a level where it's probably hard to find. I mean, your friend across the street who, you know, can barely finish a 10K. It will be hard to sort of connect with that. And you still love that person as a friend, right? But finding training partners and finding sort of, that mental support of, yes, I've been in a place like that is super valuable, and something that is sort of new in our sport. I think most other runners, they sort of run for themselves. I mean, even when Kilian ran for Solomon, you could always sense that he appreciated the Solomon support, but he was more out on his own, doing his own thing, right? And Walmsley doesn't, he runs for Hoka, but you can't really tell that he has an entire Hoka team around him, right? And I'm not trying to say anything bad about these other runners, but it is previously sort of been that if you run for yourself, and a sponsor might give you money to do that, but you don't really have a team. So it's really great to see this starting to happen, which brings me to the segue. Let's talk about Innsbruck, because there all of a sudden I saw the Nike swoosh on your jersey. You were running for Team Germany and not for Adidas.
Yes.
So let's talk World Cup. Let's talk about how it was running. Like, talk about it from all levels, right? I mean, obviously wearing the German colors is a unique experience, but the World Cup is such a completely unique and different type of racing than we usually do in trail running. So I feel like we can talk 400 different angles. Start. How was the World Cup in Innsbruck?
Yeah, man, like, oh boy, like there's literally so much from so many angles that I could tell, but like most excited about it in generally, I am probably about the fact that I think something extremely great is about to happen with our sports.
Okay.
I mean, I've been at UTMB a couple of times. I've been at other races all over the planet, and some of those races like like super approachable for the general public. There's more or less good live streams out there, but I felt like this was yet on another level. It was great. Like the energy in the city of Innsbruck was super crazy. Everyone followed the race or the races. I mean, it was like a 5 or 6 day long party, right? With opening ceremonies and then super interesting races to watch, all of them so different in nature. Every day you got something different. A big German superstar was playing like on the closing ceremony then on Saturday night. The weather was amazing. There were so many good runners from all over the world. Some of them I knew, some of them I got to meet and run with them. And I've got friends from my hometown, which is like 7-8 hours by car north from Innsbruck, and some of them came, and whoever wasn't coming, they watched the live stream that worked phenomenally well. And yeah, so that was amazing for our sports.
I got the sense too that, I don't know, in some respects the big races, as much as UTMB is a huge spectacle and lots of people are getting that race too, and the video footage is truly impressive and stuff, right? But it is a little bit more of a personal journey. Like, it is hard to connect the average spectator, but everybody gets a world championship, gets that, right?
Yeah, maybe.
And so I think, because on one side, the one big piece that was missing with Innsbruck is that the pros run by themselves, right? One of the big pieces that we always see in in all the races, what makes our sport so special, that if you toe the line at UTMB as a sponsored athlete, I can toe it too, right? That we are sort of all as part of the same sport, part of the same event, which is unique. But the World Cup was just for the pros, but it gave the spectators a great way of experiencing it and understanding what the sport is all about, right?
Yeah, and maybe even the concepts were better, like, I mean, seeing Kilian finish like 1 hour or 30 minutes ahead of the second guy, like, is cool, especially if you somehow are able to grasp what kind of performance Kilian just pulled off again. But like some of the races or the race formats that we had now at the World Champs were crazy. Like I was standing there on the Saturday with like super tired legs and body, and I was like, God damn, I want to be like a mountain classic runner. Like how amazing were those races? Especially like I almost had to like stop watching the women's below 20 race. Like it was too crazy to watch. Like it was incredible what happened, like first runner like is a little bit worse on the downhill, so the Spanish runner like comes from behind and chases her and overtakes her, and then the Spanish girl kind of doing her super crazy downhill performance like takes like a 2-meter detour, so someone else is catching up. It was crazy. Crazy. And then like on all the other distances as well, things were, I think, much easier to follow because racing time was shorter. We weren't racing overnight.
From a spectator point of view, the events were more approachable. Absolutely, right? Yeah. I think that's a good way of framing it. For you as a racer, as an athlete, how was it being part of Team Germany?
Amazing. I mean, like you said, I had the swoosh on my chest, which for me, being like closely connected for more than 11 years now to the brand Adidas, was strange, but it is much less strange when the Bundesadler, the federal eagle, is on your other side of your chest. I don't want to like get overly, how do you say,
patriotic.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. In the States, you guys do that. In Germany, we somehow tend to not. But no, truly, like having that symbol on your chest is something special. And like you said earlier, I mean, you can like buy your registration into like every single race on the planet, really. UTMB, La Diagonale, like whatever you want to race, you can race that. Sometimes you have to have some lottery luck, but that's pretty much it, right? A World Champs, you can't do that. Like either you are selected or you are not, and that adds to the both pressure as well as like positive feeling that you get out of it. And yeah, the course was amazing, right? The landscapes we got to run through was super great. We got into quite some alpine, high alpine terrain, which was really, really cool with super nice views. And there are some ski resorts that we ran through, and all the gondolas, they actually enabled you to take the gondolas and the lifts without charge. So even like somewhere high up in the mountains, we had like a huge group of people, like
fantastic,
many spectators on the highest ridge that the Stubai Alps can offer. And yeah, that's something that from Zegama and maybe one or two other races, but that's pretty much it. So it was incredible, really.
It was, I mean, from an organization point of view, it was a really good combination of getting Tirol as a gigantic marketing engine, right? To really drive that, and obviously bring in the experts who know how to put on a race, right? Bring in race organizations that knows how to market course and figure these pieces out, right? But having that larger tourism angle, it really, really helped to position the event, right? The outside marketing from, being way far away and not having been there was really, really great. And I think really helped, propel the sport sort of forward, right? In many ways.
Yeah, I'm glad that from many thousands of kilometers away, you perceive that the same way, because like I still have hope for our sports. It's great the way it is, right? We don't need to overly commercialize to have fun in the mountains, but I still wish that like more runners feel or more people feel the same way that I feel when I'm in the mountains, and that get like the same thing out of it. And I think events like that can definitely help in that regard.
Yeah, I think I've been thinking about this a lot. And for me, I feel like more visibility in unique and different locations can only help our sport, because we don't just have to run around Mont Blanc, right? We don't just
Right.
have to run the canyons in Auburn, right? There are
Yeah.
lots of really cool places, and I'm not taking anything away from these historic races. They've done everything right in order to promote their specific place, but at the same time, why not create more iconic locations where people want to race, that will only relieve the pressure of an ever-growing sport trying to push themselves into the few races that they are, right?
Yeah.
So I welcome that. And it's great to hear that Innsbruck did it right and got the spectators out too, because that's the perception I have a little bit, is that coming from America, we see the spectators at UTMB and think that all over the Alps it is like that for these races, but it's not like that, right?
Yeah, unfortunately not. Yeah.
There are big races that are really well known and spectators don't come out. It is something unique to UTMB, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. I've just read there's a new book. I don't know if you've heard of this book, Doug Meyer from Run the Alps. He just published a book, just came out this week, The Race That Changed Running, the inside story of UTMB.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's worth a read. And I mean, it is sort of a little bit geared towards explaining to Americans what UTMB is in Chamonix, and kind of laying out the history and stuff. But in it, Michel Poletti talks about how he's trying to keep UTMB sort of at the top of the pile, meaning his goal is to always make UTMB the pinnacle of our sport.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious how you feel as an athlete and spectator, having experienced Innsbruck. Do you think the World Championships every 2 years can compete with UTMB now in the future? Do you think from a attention?
Let me ask you one question first. The book, was that written before or after the Ironman takeover?
It was just published this week, so it's brand new, and it includes all the results from 2022, and it's written after the Ironman takeover. Yeah, well, partnership. It's not a takeover, right?
Well, yes, maybe no. Because that leads me to the answer of the question you just asked me. I believe that, no, let me say that I hope that a single race that is like very commercial and is getting more and more commercial has to, although there's much money involved and the investment is huge, so that gives you like a lot of power, right? But it's good to see that even such a race has to, let's say, fear a little bit the pressure and might recognize now that some of the decisions that were made and sometimes the way that athletes and participants get treated is something that you don't get away with. And I think that's good, and that's also very healthy for our sports, that there's always the reminder, hey, like we need to do our best in order to treat participants, in order to treat athletes and everyone else who is part of this game well. And I think that's also very, very good. And I believe like a race like that definitely has the chance to match the attention or the density of performance, which by the way, I think that most races actually also have already. Yeah, so I think in most regards, the world champs actually did get pretty close to what's going on in UTMB. Also, if you compare what was going on in Innsbruck city versus what was going on in Chamonix city, the vibe that you got away, the athletes that were running around, and I definitely think that other races can match.
That is super good to hear, because you're right. Our sport will benefit from not everything be the singular piece. And in many ways, especially transitionally, if the expectation from sponsors is that you're still going to be in Chamonix in August, I mean, you're going to be in Chamonix in August, right?
Yes.
Right? It's good that the world champs are shorter races, right? So you can actually run one of the shorter distances, and it doesn't take away from your full focus of the big distances, which are currently still being the UTMB distances, right? So it
Yeah, I
actually
agree.
works well into sort of that system, right? While at the same time, organizationally offers a really interesting alternative and different way of like, how can we sort of present athletes, can we organize events, how can we create an atmosphere for spectators. So
And
well,
yeah,
that's very cool.
and also trail running is more than running 100 miles, right? And
Mm-hmm.
not only because a distance is shorter doesn't mean that the distance is less serious, or the performance that you have to show in order to win a race is smaller, right? And yeah, I like that in that way. The world champs were slightly different, or pretty much different to what was, or what is going on in August in Chamonix, and that as well is healthy for our sports. That it's attracts and rewards different kind of runners. And for me, that was always like something special and lovable about the trail running sports. That is like so versatile, right? You can run a vertical, you can run 100 miles, you can run longer than 100 miles, and you can run everything in between, really. And in my eyes, that's, you can run technical, you can run fast, and in my eyes, that's beautiful about trail running as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm so curious how our sport would have developed differently if the loop around Mont Blanc wouldn't have been almost exactly 100 miles, right? Because here in America, because of Western states, we are fixated with the 100-mile distance. We love that round number, and it makes sense. But in Europe, in the Alps, a loop is a loop, right? Eiger isn't 100-mile, Lavaredo isn't 100-mile,
Yeah,
Zugspitze isn't 100-mile, right? People put races out and come up with a perfect loop, and it is the distance what it is. And
interesting.
right, I think if UTMB would have been 120 kilometers, that loop, I don't think we would have ever fixated as much on that 100-mile distance.
Very interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, let's talk about you a little bit more. You had moved last time. We were just about to move to Innsbruck. You've moved to Innsbruck, but you've also told me throughout that you sort of stepped down from sort of the full-time work in your marketing agency, focusing more on pro. How has that been? How has that worked out for you?
Yeah, great. I mean, it's only been 3 months now since I pulled that plug, or changed like my life a little bit in that regards, and it's been great. The result at the World Champs now wasn't exactly what I had hoped, what I had trained for. My coach confirms that, or he was actually the first one telling me like, hey, I'm glad that you're happy, but also I think you could have done that course in like 10-15 minutes faster. Um, but like already during the build-up phase to the World Champs, I noticed that I can run harder, more often, longer, that I enjoy it even more, that I recover from it better, and that the surroundings of Innsbruck, with like having a roommate after having had my own flat for quite some time, I also have always have had many friends in Innsbruck and around Innsbruck, and that's like all these little things like added up to making me happier, and happier me is able to train harder, and someone like the hard training me is also able to run faster than in competition time. And yeah, no, everything has turned out as good or even better than I had imagined.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's great. Sometimes we have to take sort of a jump, a sort of a courageous decision, right? To sort of step into the unknown a little bit, right? And when it
I think we
pays
should do
off.
that actually even more often, and maybe even sooner, and encourage each other to do these kind of things that feel right to us.
Nice. I like that. So what does that then turn into for plans for the rest of the year for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was like semi-sure about everything that would be going on after the World Champs. Like in my head, that was like the first big thing to focus on, and everything after that um, would basically become clearer after that. Now I feel pretty good. Now I am like completely hyped about racing still. So yeah, like planning is progressing a little bit. I will actually go next weekend already to the German champs in skyrunning.
Okay.
So changing gears a little bit in that regards, and like you certainly remember, and maybe everyone else who was listening in the last episodes with me, I am definitely more of the more technical kind of guy. So yeah, skyrunning now in my mind is something I'm very much looking forward to in that race. As you might also remember, I'm like the co-founding vice president of the German Skyrunning Federation. So showing up at our own championships, of course, yeah, makes sense, I would say, and I'm happy to meet a couple of skyrunners there. Yeah, so that will be next weekend.
Where is it going to be at?
Kaiserkrone Trail in Austria. We don't really have any sky races in Germany, or any races that could become sky races in Germany right now. So we're joining the Austrian championship, and we're merging that in the same event. It's a really nice, a really technical loop. Was it World Series last year, or was it Hochkönig that was? No, I think it was Hochkönig. But Kaiserkrone is a World Series worthy course. Let me put it that way.
Nice.
So yeah, we will have a lot of fun there.
Yeah. And the reason why Germany doesn't have skyrunning is because skyrunning requires you to do you have a certain amount of vertical gain, but does it also have to be high up already? What are these official specifications? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, as a vice president of the federation, I should, and I kind of do. Don't nail me, but on it. But it's something like the maximum incline needs to be at least 30%. Then the average incline needs to be at least 10%. And then you have to run at least, I think it is 80% on trails.
Okay.
I would say it's like soft targets, not necessarily like super hard targets. But and I think they're changing that. Formally, you also would need to climb higher than 2,000 meters above the sea.
Okay, that's the key piece. Yeah, exactly.
And I always thought that it doesn't make so much sense, because in Scandinavia, in Cape Town, in wherever, you can have super technical races that are just above sea level, and definitely like have like or Tromso, you know, they definitely have like a sky running vibe to it. And just because they don't reach the minimum altitude of 2,000 meters, if they then cannot be sky races, then yeah, I don't know. Well, the sky is high up, right? So I guess in that regards it makes sense. But yeah, they're changing that. But I'll tell you this, like, we have mountains in Germany that are higher than 2,000 meters. We have technical trails. We have everything that we need. I just think we don't really have a race director that is really willing to do it. Like here at Zugspitze, we had like a horrible accident with 4 runners a couple of years ago, when weather changed dramatically and the mandatory equipment list wasn't as elaborated as they usually are right now. And 4 runners didn't come home that day, and that leaves a mark, I think, on people. Surely it does. So.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Well, on a positive note, the reason why I was asking is partially selfish, because I'm organizing this race, Beast of Big Creek, and it goes to just below 2,000 meters. I think it's 1,850 or so. But there's also a good stretch above tree line on nice, challenging terrain. It would lend itself to a sky race type deal. You're not running a lot on the ridgeline. It's just up to the summit and back down. But the top section is a really unique kind of running experience that would totally fit that idea. But it is below 2,000 meters because we also more or less start at sea level.
Oh, wow, that's a fair amount of climbing then. I'm not sure, but I think you could have a pretty good chance in getting the certified course label.
Yeah. I need to do some research into that. I just took over that race last year, organized it last year the first time, and I'm trying to figure out, because previously it was very much a sort of a community underground race. Nobody really knew about it, and I feel like the course is so special that I feel like somebody should, you can make more out of the event, right? I mean, like,
cool.
Hello, drone shots. I need to get some live feed.
Well, thanks for doing that. Man, like, whenever I talk to you, I learn about something that you do, and like the list is just getting longer and longer of things that you do for our sports, for the community out there. So yeah, that's awesome, Matthias.
Thank you. It is really fun. I mean, that was my transition. I mean, I love running and I spend a lot of time running, but obviously I'm far away from the idea of going pro. My version of going pro was to saying, well, if I'm spending so much time with it, I need to make money somehow with it. So I became a race director, right? I wanted to include more people, bring people into the sport, and also try to define new races, new ideas, and not go just with the normal way. Here's a 50K, here's a 50 mile, that usual thing, right? And it's been super fun and super rewarding. In some respects, being a race director, I talked to Steve Auch, who did the City on Trail event. And we agree, being a race director and watching people cross the finish line in many ways is more rewarding than racing yourself. Yeah, racing yourself is amazing, but seeing people's faces when they've achieved their dreams is unbelievable.
Yeah, I can totally see that for sure. Awesome. Yeah.
Well, I have one more question about about your Team Germany that I should have asked earlier, but I'm asking now because I just remember it. One of the really cool things from a spectator point of view, which was also very confusing because it wasn't really clear because of the different organizations that come together, was the team medals. How was that for you? How was that? Because, you didn't just race for yourself. You also tried to get high enough placements in order to put yourself into a place where you then get country medals against other teams based on how you're doing. How much thinking did go into this? Because it's somewhat a new thing, right? You've never really thought about this in this way before, right?
Yeah, no, not really. And it's true, and it's a little bit what this whole thing is maybe the most about. Like, yes, when I race with Team Adidas Terex, then we also wear all the same kit, and we are just as happy about someone else winning as I would if I were winning or finishing great or finishing at all or whatever it might be. But like you're part of like the national team now, and what the federation will tell you is like, hey, you're actually running for your country now in a way. So I think it is sometimes even more about what you do for the team than it is for than what it is for then let me do it again. So sometimes it's more about running for the team than it is running for yourself. Especially if you are someone who might not be able to run for an individual medal, but who can or should contribute to maybe not winning a national medal. And yeah, it always comes with the extra amount of pressure, but it's also super exciting.
Yeah. Like in the long trail, Team Germany did not have a third runner finishing, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we had 4 runners towing the starting line, but 2 had to drop out. Actually, our potentially second and third strongest, which is a shame. But yeah, like on a 9-10 hour race, that's just what sometimes happens, unfortunately.
I mean, DNFs happen, absolutely. But as a spectator, I was looking at it, I was like, if somebody would have just finished, not even doing that great, just finished, it might have given enough points to bump Team Germany in the overall classification up one.
Yes and no, or no. We thought the same, and our 2 long trail runners who did drop out had the same fear, and it was like not sitting well with them.
Okay.
Like it was like really, they were really not okay with that. They did not drop out lightheartedly. I know that for sure. And then we try to understand like this overall thing a little bit better. Because not the individual, but the team medals for each discipline, that's like pretty easy to understand what's going on. Like the 3 strongest races of each gender get basically combined, and then you see where you are getting out. But like this overall thing is a little bit more tricky because you have like 2 skipped disciplines.
Okay.
So not every single gender on all 4 races were considered, but only we have
the top performances.
We have 4 races, 2 genders, so that's 8. So only the 6 best performances of each discipline/gender were considered. So the man long trail just got cancelled and did not give us like any disadvantage in that way.
Oh, you see, this was brilliant. Thank you. I think this is, from a spectator point of view, this is going to be a really fun thing to dive into as we are sort of establishing that world championship, right? Because that's sort of a fun game to play, right? I mean, that has Olympic Games feeling, right? Where you're a spectator and you always look at the medals and try to figure out what discipline, what changes.
It was really cool.
What are the conversations in the team? Do you think that trail has a chance to be Olympic at some point? And should it be?
Let me drop one more fun fact, because we just talked about DNFs. Fun fact here: 50% of the female long distance runners were dropping out. 50%.
Oh wow.
Yeah, in an elite field on a not even 100K.
But the the vert was pretty brutal, right?
It's a tough course. Like,
I mean, I think it was one of the hardest vert for kilometers was really, really tough.
Yeah. I mean, that 85K race had enough vertical gain for 100K and some of the 100-mile races, especially in the States.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it was not only steep but also extremely technical. So that didn't help. And then on the second day or second half of the course, it was so incredibly hot, so hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. So yeah,
anyways, Olympic was.
Let's talk about Olympics.
Yes, I thought about the same thing when watching the races, and especially when watching the mountain classics, so the up and down, like 1 hour ish plus minus, super hard, super technical, runners very close to each other, many changes of the leader and so on, like so sharp and easy to follow, and not too long, and very fast, and nice pictures, and everything that you would want as a spectator, because we all know that the way, or the how great it is to follow a race as a spectator, especially on TV, is something that the IOC considers as extremely important, right? So especially at the mountain classic race, I thought, yes, we're getting towards a race concept that actually can be Olympic. And I actually heard some birds singing that, more or less with the example of the race in Innsbruck now, the IOC will be getting a pitch again, but that's just birds singing, so like nothing official.
Yeah. For you as an athlete, is that something that you would want to see in your lifetime?
Yes, because of many reasons. One, in Germany, the Olympic sports get so much more funding and attention from federations than non-Olympic sports, which would attract more runners, which would attract more sponsors. It would enable more runners to actually like make a living of it, which is great. We all know that we have to like work pretty hard and smart in order to make a living of trail running. And I think if it were to become Olympic, then that would change a little bit. Of course, like now I'm 29, so the decision would need to be made like rather quickly. But like I also, for me personally, I see like a super tiny chance to actually go to the Olympic Games, which would be amazing. Like super, like the most amazing thing ever. And yeah, it would just create one more extremely competitive, extremely nice to follow event out there, and who as a trail runner wouldn't want that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't know. I think the general visibility, I mean, I guess for me as somebody who obviously is not considered for a team, the only fear that I would have is that I don't want to see races getting shut out for me being able to participate. Like, it's fine if it's hard to get into, it's fine if I have to go through lottery, but I don't want races to all of a sudden say, well, now it's just going to be elites and you don't get to run that event at all anymore. That would be for me the only fear, but overall, I think I would love to see the sport continue to trend in that direction.
But except for the Olympic race itself, like how could you imagine that a race director could exclude you?
I don't know. It could be that if this, I mean, it would probably take decades, right? But perhaps there comes the point where there are enough professional athletes applying for UTMB that UTMB says, well, it's just going to be professional athletes because we don't need the amateurs anymore. I don't know. I don't know how long that. I just see every other professional sport, and I see the clear separation that I can play soccer in my backyard, but I will never play in the Allianz Arena with Thomas Müller, right? There is a separation between the pros and the amateurs. And I see this in every other sport. And I'm like, I don't want our sport to go there. And I don't know, right? I mean, I don't know what's the scenario that would be, right? But I mean, if the sport would become Olympic, sponsors would spill money into the sport. All of a sudden, your Adidas Terex team is, 50 people, and they're all being paid, and they all want to play at UTMB. And you have 10 teams like that. Then perhaps too many spots are taken up by the professional athletes. I don't know if that's a scenario that is realistic even in our lifetime, right? I mean, our sport would have to grow exponentially to even get there. So I can't see that, but that would be a hypothetical, if you will.
Yeah, but that would be definitely shitty. All right. Yeah, I mean, let's see what happens at UTMB, right? I mean, they changed the qualification for the World Series final again, right? So now you, as a male OCC participant, you quote unquote only have to run 830 UTMB points, which is better than running top 3 at each of the qualifiers, because that's super hard, right? Or unevenly hard spread over the planet, let me put it that way. But yeah, with 830 points, that would that enables quite many runners to actually then go to OCC and all the other UTMB races and have qualified for the world final. But they can dial that in, right? Like if the amount of pros would be too large, then they would just make 850 out of 830 and then have dialed it again.
Yeah. I mean, it is
because I can comfort you in that way. Like, even if you qualify for the World Series final, you still have to pay for your entry.
I know. Going back to that book that I mentioned, there's actually a good section that explains the Poletti kind of idea behind all of this, where they've always wanted this event to be an adventure for everyone. They didn't really set out. That's why they didn't do prize money for so long, because they wanted to say it doesn't matter who signs up, if you're a sponsored athlete or if you are, a guy who runs trails in Hamburg. If you come and you finish, you get exactly the same medal as everyone else. You get the same T-shirt or whatever it is, right? There is no difference. And they have some good reason for that, which I think comes from a noble place. And I don't know. I hear a lot of pro athletes saying, an event that big needs prize money. And I don't know. I mean, it's good that it happened now, if that's what's needed, but I don't know. I mean, for me as an amateur, I don't see that prize money. Do I need it? Do we need it? I mean, it's nice, right? I mean, sure.
But let me put it that way. Like, would you, or are you, not would you, but are you feeling bad because someone else is winning prize money?
No. I don't mind that it exists, right? I just understand where they came from, because especially here in the US and the media and stuff, it felt like it was portrayed that they were, purposely like trying to do something, whatever, right? And when you hear their reasoning of saying, no, everyone's treated exactly the same, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. I mean, I only would feel bad if I would run a race and the entry fee would be $100. And then next year, the race entry would be 150, so that the top 3 could get prize money. Then I'm like, wait, now I'm paying for.
No,
now I'm like,
yeah, that would be something else. But yeah, I mean, now knowing so many athletes that are like either are on the brink of making the jump towards the professional existence as a professional athlete, or are actually a professional athlete and have, when racing 100K, 100 miles, you have like just so many shots per year to actually make your living, right? And you're potentially sacrificing like a career in some other career path. So you only have so many years to actually get some money out of it. Then I can also kind of understand that those runners would love to see some prize money. Of course, it's always your own choice. You can also go to Walmart and stay at the tilt, right? You always have that choice. But I mean, we all love seeing people running fast and faster and breaking records and doing something incredible. And that's a lot. That has a lot to do with the integrity of the sports. And if we do want to see that, then I think we also need to enable people to financially also focus on the sports entirely. And
absolutely,
for that, prize money is needed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that is part of the professional package, is perfectly reasonable and makes perfect sense, right?
And maybe to close the loop to how we started this whole conversation, the whole reason why, in my case, Adidas Terex, in other cases, Hoka are so, or other brands, whatever brands, all the brands are so prevalent, is because there's no federation that really looks after us well. There's no other like team from that or this city that really looks after us. So it's basically those brands like stepping into or up to that place to support us athletes in the way that we need to be supported. Because there is not enough prize money and there is no federations, just like I just said. So yeah, and prize money could help enable to runners to earn more, or more runners to actually make a living out of it. And most of us trail runners don't really earn a lot, especially if you compare like our workloads and the way we have to work in comparison to other sports. That's a fair thing to say. So yeah, also from that perspective, I think prize money is definitely
no, for sure. And I think you make a very good point that in most other sports, you have a federation, you have sort of an organization that manages so much your travel and stuff, right? That is also taken care of. Where if you don't have a sponsor, a team that helps you, if you are supposed to be a professional athlete that really competes in Chamonix, and you also have to worry about your Airbnb and your place to stay and your food and everything, right? I mean, you are so distracted. How can you focus on your athletic performance, right? You can be there, everybody can do that, right? I mean, but you also supposed to be performing on a different level. And if you then layer on expectations to media appearances and other stuff, right? Then it's hard to see the athletic performance even still being a priority, right? I mean, you have to really fight for that. It's like, I'm not just here to smile and shake hands. I'm actually need to perform too.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, super. So you mentioned OCC. You're running OCC this year?
If I qualify, like I said,
Oh,
I
oh
still
yeah.
have to run like those 830 points, and I'll try to do that at Eiger,
Okay.
which is in exactly 4 weeks from now. Um, yeah,
I like it.
but I will make those 830 points, and then I guess I'll toe the starting line of OCC one more time.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah,
That sounds like a good summer plan. I very much
well,
appreciate you coming back on
yeah.
single track.
The Swiss and French Alps are definitely not the worst places to run, to train, and to spend the summer. Yeah, so that's my plan for the summer, and then in the fall, it might be Cappadocia or Otta in South Africa, and then most likely UTCT again. Went there the last 2 years, and yeah, I love that place and the people there so much. I don't really want to miss that one.
Fantastic. Well, you've got a full plate. Before I let you go, where can people connect? What is the best way to connect with you?
I think the best platform, or the platform where I'm most active, is Instagram,
Okay.
and my handle there would be Macy_Pacey.
All right. We'll link that in the show notes. Do you have like an athlete page on the Adidas Terex team? Is there such a thing?
No. It's more low profile in that way.
Okay.
We have our Instagram that we can like control our own way, and for me personally, that's already enough in terms of platforms to maintain.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Well, Marcel, thank you so much for coming on Single Track. Always incredibly fun to chat across the pond. And I wish you an incredible time now in your Trainingslager and then at the Sky Race.
Cool. Thank you so much, and thanks also for having me. It was good fun.